Emma Walker was pushing her cleaning cart down the hallway of the Grand Meridian Hotel. This was her double shift this week. The people who worked at midnight were always few in number. Emma Walker needed every single dollar she could get. She was using this money to pay for her school. Emma Walker wanted to be a nurse. She was 26 years old now. Emma Walker really wanted to have a life than the one she had when she was a kid. She had grown up in the Riverside Orphanage. It was a very tough place. Emma Walker did not want to go to a life like that. Room 2847 was the place she had to go before she could take a break. She knocked on the door 2 times. She did not hear anything. So she used her master key to get in. The room was really dark except for the lights of the city that were coming in through the windows that went all the way from the floor to the ceiling. There was a man standing in front of the window and his whole body was stiff, with tension in his shoulders. Emma said, "Housekeeping," in a voice. She asked if she should come back later. The man said, "Leave towels," without even turning around to look at me. He just added that this will be enough. I should just leave the fresh towels. Emma stopped moving. That voice was really something. It was low and calm. You could tell there was something not quite strong about it. Emma's hands were shaking as she put down the towels. When the man moved, the light hit his face. He had a jaw and dark hair that stuck up a little on the left side. When he finally looked at Emma, she saw his really beautiful amber-colored eyes. The man had a jawline and dark hair and those amazing amber eyes. Teddy? The name came out before she could stop herself from saying Teddy. The man stiffened. He said, "Excuse me," in a tone clearly not understanding what was just said to him. The man was taken aback and wanted the other person to repeat themselves, so he said, "Excuse me," hoping to get a clearer answer from the man he was talking to the man. "I am sorry, sir. I thought you were someone." Emma's heart was beating fast against her ribs. This was not possible. Theodore Blackwood, the tech billionaire whose face is always in business magazines, was standing in this hotel room. More than that, this was Teddy. Her Teddy, from Riverside. Theodore Blackwood was the person she expected to see here. Teddy, the boy she used to know, was now standing in front of her. He said, "You called me Teddy." Then he turned around to face her. He looked at her in a way that made her feel weird. He said, "No one calls me Teddy. People do not remember you from a time ago." Emma's voice became steady and sure. "You were not always Theodore Blackwood. There was a time before you were adopted, before your life was completely different." The look on his face changed from being annoyed to being really alert. He said, "Who are you?" "Emma Walker." "You knew me as Emmy." She took a step forward, a little careful. "We lived in the dormitory at Riverside Orphanage. I was thinking about this the day you came to Riverside Orphanage when you were 6 years old. I was 5 years old at that time. Emma Walker remembers that you used to have dreams about a woman singing soft songs, and Emma Walker would sneak into your bed to hold your hand until you stopped crying." Theodore's face went completely white. That is not possible, he thought to himself. The Blackwood family adopted him when he was a baby. He has no memory of any orphanage. "I was adopted by the Blackwood family," Theodore said, trying to make sense of it all. "The Blackwood family is the family he has ever known." Emma's eyes got all teary. "That is what they told you," she said. "It is not true. You moved to Riverside when you were a little kid, 6 years old. The thing is, you were found near the interstate alone with no idea who you were or where you came from. You did not have any identification on you. You did not remember anything about your family. The people in charge tried to find your family. They never could." Theodore said, "Stop." He held up his hand. He did not sound like he really meant it. This is just crazy, Theodore thought. Why would he believe anything they were saying to him? Theodore wanted to know why he should trust them. Theodore just did not think it made any sense. Emma said this quietly. You have a birthmark that looks like a crescent moon behind your ear. You are also left-handed. You learned to write with your right hand. The reason you did this is because the older kids made fun of you. You were really scared of thunderstorms. You loved to draw things, like buildings and bridges. You wanted to build something tall one day. You said this thing would be so tall that it would touch the clouds. You really liked the idea of building something that would touch the clouds with the buildings and bridges that you drew. Theodore's hand went up to his ear without him even realizing it. This was a movement, but Emma noticed it. Theodore recalled something even though he did not want to say it loud. She kept talking. You also had a scar on your left knee. This was from when you fell off the swing set. You were trying to jump, then Stephen Carver. I helped you to the nurse's office. You were crying. It was not because it hurt much. It was because you got your only good pair of pants all dirty and ruined. You really liked those pants. Now they were all torn. The swing set incident was something that happened a time ago. I remember it like it was yesterday. You were so upset about your pants. The scar on your knee is still there. It reminds me of that day when you fell off the swing set trying to jump, then Stephen Carver. Theodore wondered how someone could know all this stuff. He was starting to lose it. Theodore walked over to the bar, in the suite. Poured himself a glass of scotch. His hands were shaking really badly as he did this. I was there when it happened. We were friends, good friends, the best friends. Emma's throat got all tight with feelings. You vanished when you were a little kid, only 8 years old. One day you were with us and the next morning your bed was empty, you were gone. The person in charge, Mrs. Helena Frost, said that you had been taken in by a family. We were glad for you, even though it was very hard for us to see you go. We missed you much. Theodore drank the glass of scotch in one go. Even if any of this stuff were true, which I do not think it is, why are you telling me this now? After all these years have passed. I saw your face in the guest registry tonight. I could not believe it. For 18 years I thought you had found happiness, you had found a family. You did find a family apparently. She pointed to his suit, the luxury suite. I also see the way you stand at that window looking lost, the same way you used to look out the orphanage windows searching for something that you could not name. You look like you are searching for something just like you did then. The luxury suite and the expensive suit do not seem to be making you happy. You still look lost just like you did 18 years ago. There was a knock at the door. A woman walked in. She was wearing a business suit and looked very professional. Mr. Blackwood, I need to tell you that your call with Tokyo is now at 6 in the morning. I wanted to make sure you got the papers we sent over about the meeting. Theodore said, Thank you, Caroline. His voice was back to normal. This is Emma, she works at the hotel. Emma, I want you to meet my assistant Caroline Hughes. Caroline looked at Emma closely like she was trying to figure out if Emma was a problem. I see. Well, Mr. Blackwood needs to get some sleep. Maybe the housekeeping people can come back. Finish cleaning in the morning? Emma grabbed her cart. She stopped at the door. Teddy, if you ever want to know the truth about where you came from, I still have something that belongs to you, Teddy. You gave it to me the night before you left, Teddy. It is something that belongs to you. Theodore asked what it was, even though he did not really want to know. You gave me a drawing. I remember you made me promise to take care of it until you came back for it. You told me this drawing was a picture of your family. You said you could not really remember them. You knew they were out there somewhere. Emma smiled. She looked sad. She knew what this drawing meant. You drew a picture of a man who was very tall and had eyes. The woman in the picture had dark hair and she was beautiful. There was a boy in the picture too, and he was holding the hands of the man and the woman. At the bottom of the drawing you wrote something. You wrote, "This is who I'm supposed to be," and it was like you were trying to remember something about your real family, the family in the drawing. The silence that followed was really uncomfortable. Caroline stepped forward. Her voice was very cold. Mr. Blackwood does not want to hear fantasies from people he does not know who claim they knew him when they were kids. I think you should leave now before I call the security people to come and take you away. Mr. Blackwood does not have time for this kind of thing. Theodore raised his hand again, which stopped her. His amber eyes were fixed on Emma's eyes with a lot of intensity that made Emma's breath catch. What hotel do you work at tomorrow night? Theodore asked Emma. I'm here every night this week. Midnight shift. Then we will talk again. He pulled out his wallet. Handed her a business card. My private number is on the back of the business card. If you are telling the truth, if you really knew me, then I need to understand why I cannot remember any of this thing with me. Emma took the card and her fingers touched his for a short time. This touch made them both feel something. You do not remember because they did something to make you forget. The truth always finds a way to come out even when people try to hide it. Emma and the person she was talking to both knew that the truth about something was very important. The truth about Emma and this person was trying to be hidden. It was still there. As Emma walked out of the suite, she heard Caroline whispering quietly. Sir, this woman might be trying to trick you. Some people look at your money and make up all sorts of stories about you. Emma thought to herself, wondering what Caroline was talking about and what made her think that this woman was a con artist, someone who lies to get what they want from people, like Sir, who have a lot of money. Theodore said, so tell me, how did she know about the birthmark on my body? He sounded far away. And what about the scar? How did she know about that too? She even talked about my handwriting. Things that my adoptive parents never told me, things they never even mentioned about my handwriting and the birthmark and the scar. Emma smiled as she pushed her cart toward the service elevator. She had been carrying this secret for 18 years. It was a big relief that someone was finally ready to listen to her. Emma was going to tell Theodore the truth about what she knew. This was not going to be easy for Emma. Telling Theodore the truth would mean that Emma would have to talk about some powerful people in the city who were involved in this. Emma would also have to admit that she had stayed silent for all these years, and that was a thing for Emma to do. Losing Theodore Blackwood would be really tough for Emma because he is the friend she has from her childhood who actually did something with his life. As Emma rode the elevator down to the basement storage, Emma knew what she had to do. Theodore Blackwood deserved to know that he is really Jonathan Sterling and that his real mother is there somewhere, and she never stopped looking for her son Jonathan Sterling. The question was whether he would believe her when she told him the rest. That his adoption had been illegal. That his entire identity was built on lies. And that the man he called father, Richard Moss Blackwood, had known the truth all along. Theodore was wide awake. He was sitting in his office on the floor of a building and he could see the whole city from there. The things Emma said were stuck in his head. He could not stop thinking about them. It was 3 o'clock in the morning when Theodore finally picked up the phone and dialed the number for Dennis Howell, the private investigator that you could hire if you had a lot of money. Theodore was going to ask Dennis Howell to help him because Dennis Howell was the private investigator. Theodore said, I want you to look into Riverside Orphanage. I need to know everything about Riverside Orphanage. Find every record that is related to Riverside Orphanage. Get a list of every employee who worked at Riverside Orphanage. I also want to know about every child who was at Riverside Orphanage between 1998 and 2005. Dennis does not ask questions. He never asks any questions. Dennis said, I will have some findings by noon. Theodore could not wait. He got out his adoption papers, which he had only looked at one time when he was a grown-up. These papers said that he was adopted when he was 6 months old from an agency that helps find homes for kids. Richard Blackwood, his father, had signed the papers as a man whose wife had died and he wanted to give a home to a baby who did not have any parents. Theodore thought about his adoption papers and the private agency that had helped him find a home with Richard Blackwood. So Emma said that he arrived at Riverside when he was 6 years old. That does not seem right. Someone is not telling the truth. It is clear that someone is lying about the fact that he arrived at Riverside at such an age. Riverside is where he supposedly arrived. Emma said it happened when he was just 6 years old. When the sun came up, Theodore was standing outside the building where Riverside Orphanage used to be. The building was not safe to use. The windows were covered with boards and weeds were growing in the broken parking lot. As he stood there looking at the red brick front of the building, Theodore felt something move inside his chest. He felt something. A memory was trying to come to him. Theodore thought about Riverside Orphanage. What it meant to him. He looked at the building and Riverside Orphanage came to mind again. He remembered running. His small feet were slapping against the linoleum floor. A woman was calling him. She was not saying Theodore. She was saying something. This other name felt right to Theodore in a way that the name Theodore never had. Theodore just did not feel like his name. Emma said you came. Her voice really startled him. She was standing next to a fence that was all rusty. Emma was wearing jeans and a jacket that had faded a lot. Her dark hair was pulled back into a ponytail. The morning light was shining on her face. He could see that Emma looked like the girl from his dreams. Emma had brown eyes. Those eyes looked very sad. It was strange to see someone young with eyes that looked so sad. The little girl from his dreams had the eyes, as Emma. Theodore said, "Show me." His voice was really rough. "I want to see proof," Theodore said. "I want to see the proof." Emma reached into her bag. Pulled out an old envelope that was made of manila paper. It was worn out from being used a lot. Inside the envelope she found some drawings that kids had made. These drawings had a lot of creases in them because they had been stored away for a long time. Theodore's hands were shaking as he opened the drawing. It was a picture made with crayons. The picture showed two people holding a person between them. At the bottom of the picture someone had written something in handwriting that was not very steady. The word said, "My family. I will find you." Theodore looked at the picture. The words. He felt something. The drawings were made by children. They were special to Theodore. The envelope had been kept safe for a time and now Theodore was looking at the drawings again. Emma had kept the envelope in her bag. Now she was showing it to Theodore. The picture of the family was very important to Theodore. The second drawing showed a big house with columns and gardens. The house looked very nice. "This is the house where I used to live before I got lost and could not find my way to the house." The third picture was of a woman. She had long hair that looked like it was moving and a nice smile on her face. "Mama sings to me in my dreams." Theodore's vision started to get all fuzzy. These drawings were like a key that opened up something that was down and hidden away. He could almost hear the sound of that song. It was like he could feel the woman giving him a hug and he could smell the perfume she was wearing. It smelled like roses and it smelled like vanilla. Theodore's drawings were really bringing back memories of that song and that woman. Emma gave him a notebook. She said, "There is more to this story." This notebook was something he had written in every night. He did this to try to remember things before he forgot them. The notebook was like a journal. Emma said, "You kept a journal." She also said, "You wrote in it every night trying to remember details before they faded." The director did not know that the journal existed. Emma hid the journal for him. She did this to keep it safe. The journal was something that Emma and he knew about. Emma said, "I hid it for you." Theodore was looking at some pages that had bad handwriting on them. These were notes about dreams and things he kinda remembered. There were descriptions of a big house that had a piano in it, a garden with fountains made of stone, and a man who taught Theodore how to play chess. Then he saw one note that really scared him. Theodore thought about the house and the garden and the man who taught him chess, and he felt bad when he read that one note about the big house. Today a man came to see me. The man's name is Richard. He said he wants to be my daddy. Something about Richard does not feel right. When Richard smiles, it does not make his eyes smile too. I told Mrs. Frost that I do not want to go with Richard. She said I have to go. Mrs. Frost said that if I am good and forget about my family, Richard will buy me lots of things. I do not want lots of things. I just want my mama and my real papa. The entry was written down 3 days before the boy was officially adopted. The adoption was going to be official in 3 days when the entry was made. This entry was about the boy's adoption that was happening in 3 days. Dennis. Theodore just stood there. He did not move. "Boss, you really need to hear this," Dennis said. Riverside Orphanage was closed down in 2006. This happened after the FBI looked into some things. They found out that Riverside Orphanage was involved in child trafficking and illegal adoptions. The person in charge, Helena Frost, was gone before the police could catch her. Some of the people who worked at Riverside Orphanage got in trouble. They made records and took money to give children to families that were not supposed to have them. And Richard Blackwood? Theodore's voice was steel. The man's name is in the files as someone the police were looking at. He was never in trouble with the law. The people investigating this case thought it was weird that he became your parent just a few months before everything came out. The fact that he did this close to when the truth was revealed makes the police think something is not right about the man's actions, the man's decision to adopt you. The police are still looking at the man and his decision to adopt you. Theodore hung up the phone. Turned to Emma. "Why did you not say anything to anyone? If you knew that I was taken away wrongly, why did you keep quiet?" Tears fell down Emma's face. She said, "I was scared of Mrs. Frost. She told me that if I ever told anyone about your memories, about the things you said before you went away, something bad would happen to the kids. I was a little girl, Teddy. I was 7 years old. I was really scared. Then the orphanage shut down. I had to go live with another family. I tried to forget what happened. I really tried to forget about all of it. I did not want to think about your memories or what Mrs. Frost said to me. I just wanted to forget everything. You kept the drawings that I made. You also kept my journal. I just could not let you be completely gone. I could not let them make you disappear." She wiped away her tears. "Your real name is Jonathan Sterling. I remember hearing Mrs. Frost say it on the phone one time. She was in an argument with someone saying that the Jonathan Sterling boy was much of a risk, that his family had a lot of money and knew a lot of important people. The person on the other end of the phone offered her so much money that she decided to take the risk with Jonathan Sterling. Jonathan Sterling, that was the name. When Theodore heard it, he felt like he had been punched in the gut. It just seemed right, you know. Hearing Jonathan Sterling was like walking through the door of my house after being away for a really long time. Jonathan Sterling, the name felt familiar, like I was finally where I was supposed to be." He took out his phone. Looked up the name. This is what he found. The results were really bad. They made the world feel like it was spinning around him. The name was over the place and it made him feel weird. He felt like the ground was moving beneath his feet when he saw the name. Missing child, Jonathan Sterling, age 6, abducted from family estate in 1998. Reward for information. The picture showed a boy with dark hair and amber eyes and a really bright smile. The boy in the picture was Theodore when he was a lot younger. It was a picture of Theodore from 20 years ago. Below the missing poster was a recent article. Catherine Sterling, the mother of the heir, continues to search for her son after 2 decades have passed. She says, "I know my son, the heir, is alive, because a mother's heart never stops knowing that her child, the missing heir, is out there somewhere." The picture showed a classy woman who was probably in her 50s. She had the amber eyes, as Theodore. The woman was standing in front of a house that looked exactly like one of the houses Theodore used to draw when he was a kid. Theodore said that he needs to see Richard. His voice sounded really empty. He needs to hear Richard say that he did what he is accused of. Theodore wants Richard to admit what Richard did. Be careful, Emma said to me. Men who take kids away from their families do not give them up easily. These men really want to keep the kids they have taken. If this man has kept his secret for 20 years, he will do anything to keep it safe now. Emma was talking about the man who stole the children. This man will not give up the children without a fight. Theodore was already walking to his car. He had the drawings and journal in his hands. These things were evidence that someone had stolen his life. They were proof that everything Theodore had built his life on was not true. Everything he thought about his identity was a lie. Theodore had his life based on things that were not real. The drawings and journal were proof of this. They showed him that his life was a foundation of lies. Caroline was waiting at his penthouse when he got there. She looked really worried. Sir Richard Blackwood has been trying to call you all morning, she said. Richard Blackwood says it is very important that he talks to you. Theodore was very sure of this. Theodore's smile was really cold. The reason is that the man knows Theodore is going to destroy the man. He found Richard in the study. The older man had hair that looked really nice and his suit was perfectly clean. When he looked into Richard's eyes, he saw something that made him feel like everything was true. Richard's eyes had a look that said a lot. Theodore, we need to talk about this girl who is filling your head with nonsense. She is really getting to you, this girl. It is not good. We have to talk about this girl and what she is doing to you, Theodore. This girl is not right for you. Theodore said that her name is Emma. She told me the truth and nothing else. Theodore threw the drawings onto the desk. He said that the truth is what they have been hiding since they bought him from a group 20 years ago. Theodore talked about Emma and the truth she told him. Richard's face turned really white. You do not understand what you are saying. I know what you did. My name is Jonathan Sterling. You took me away from my family. You paid someone to do it for you. Then you used an orphanage to make it look like everything was okay with the adoption. You made me forget who I really am, what my life was like, everything about me. Theodore's hands were tight with anger. My real mom has been looking for me for 20 years. You were pretending to be my dad the whole time. You were acting like you cared about me. It was all a lie. Jonathan Sterling is my name. I want to know the truth about my life. Richard said to me, I gave you everything. He was getting really upset. I paid for your education. I gave you lots of opportunities and wealth. Then he said, I am the one who made you the person you are today. I made the person you are today is because of me, Richard, and what I did for you. Theodore said that you made him tell a lie. His voice started to shake. You took a kid away from his family. Used his name to get rich and powerful. The Sterling money, the friends, the good business deals that people gave you because they thought you were taking care of the missing kid. You planned all of this, did you not? The Sterling fortune and all the good things that came with it were all because of this lie. You used the kid's identity to get what you wanted. Richard's silence was admission enough. Theodore said that Dennis is already gathering proof for the people in charge. He is collecting every paper, every money move, every part of your secret plan. And I am going to find my mother and tell her that her son is still alive, that I never disappeared. If you do this, you will destroy everything I built for you. Richard's calm demeanor fell apart. The company, my reputation, all of it will fall to pieces because of the scandal. Theodore picked up the drawings. Said, good. He looked at the drawings. Thought about his life. The truth is that none of this was ever really his. It was Jonathan Sterling's life that he had been living. Now Theodore is taking his life back from Jonathan Sterling. Theodore wants his life to be his, not Jonathan Sterling's life. Richard called after him as he walked out. He said, she will not want Richard. 20 years have passed since then. Richard is a stranger to her now. Theodore stopped at the door. Then I will be a stranger who finally came home. This is more than you ever gave Theodore the chance to really be a part of things, to be home, with the people Theodore cares about. Emma was sitting in the lobby. You could see that she was really nervous. Theodore did something that surprised her. He gave her a hug. He said thank you in a quiet voice. Thank you for remembering me when it seemed like everyone else was trying to make me forget about who I'm, what happened to me, the memories of me, everything about me. The woman wanted to know what was going to happen. She asked this question because she was not sure what to expect. What happens now, she said to herself. Then she asked the question out loud. Now I call my mother. Then I make sure Richard Blackwood faces justice for what Richard Blackwood did. Richard Blackwood hurt a lot of people, not me but also many other children. He really messed up their lives. He pulled back. Looked into her eyes. I am going to need your help to make sure Richard Blackwood faces justice. Will you stand with me to help me with Richard Blackwood, Emma? Tears were running down her face. She said that friends are always there for each other, and that is what friends do. Emma really meant it when she said that friends always help each other out, because that is what friends are for. Theodore and the other person walked out of the building together. Then Theodore made a call that would change everything for Theodore and the other person. The phone rang 2 times before a woman picked up. Her voice was shaking badly when she said hello. This is Catherine Sterling. Theodore said, Mom. It felt weird to say that word, but it also felt right. My name is Jonathan. I think I have been looking for my mom my life. The sound of crying on the phone did something to Theodore. It hurt him. Made him feel better at the same time. He had been looking for something for 20 years. He had been very sad for 20 years. All of that feeling came together in one moment when he realized who was on the phone. The crying sound from the phone was like a punch to Theodore's chest. It also made his chest feel a little better. Theodore had been searching for 20 years. He had been grieving for 20 years. All those feelings were, in that one moment when Theodore knew who was calling him. My baby, Catherine whispered. My sweet boy. I knew you were alive. I never stopped knowing. The Sterling estate looked just like Jonathan remembered it from his drawings. It had columns at the front door and pretty gardens all over the lawn. There were also stone fountains that made a sound in the sun. But now that Jonathan was standing at the gates all grown up and he knew this was really where he belonged, his knees felt funny and weak. The Sterling estate was really something to see. It felt like home to Jonathan. Emma gave his hand a squeeze. She said to him, You are able to do this. I know that the thing you are trying to do, you can do this. The front door opened before they got to it. Catherine Sterling was standing in the doorway. Her hands were pressed to her mouth and tears were running down her face. She looked older than her picture. You could see that being sad and hoping for something had made lines around her eyes. Her amber eyes, which were just like Jonathan's eyes, were full of love for the people in front of her, for Jonathan's family and for Jonathan himself. Catherine Sterling's eyes were really something. They were, like Jonathan's, and they were filled with love. She said Jonathan. She whispered the name Jonathan like it was something. Jonathan was unable to speak. The past 20 years of memories that were taken from him, the feeling of being incomplete, the search for something that Jonathan could not even name, all came flooding back to him at the time. Catherine walked up to Jonathan and wrapped her arms around him, and at that moment Jonathan finally knew what it felt like to be home, to really feel at home with Catherine. He said, I am sorry, and his voice was shaking. He was really upset that he could not remember the person he was talking to. I am so sorry, he said again, I am sorry that I could not remember you. Hush, my darling boy. You are here now. That is all that matters. Catherine held him tighter because she was afraid he might go away again. I never gave up hope, Catherine said. Never. Every time it was his birthday, every time it was a holiday, Catherine set a place for her darling boy at the table. She did this because she knew that someday her darling boy would come back to her. Catherine was so happy that her darling boy was home now. Inside the mansion there were a lot of family photos on the walls. You could see Jonathan when he was a toddler and also when he was a young child. He was always smiling in these photos. You could tell that he was very loved. His life was stolen from him, but it will not be erased from our memories. The family photos of Jonathan will always remind us of him. Jonathan said, "This is Emma." He pulled away slowly, he did not want to let go. Emma is the reason Jonathan found his way. Emma kept Jonathan's memories safe when Jonathan could not remember things himself. Catherine gave Emma a hug with a lot of love. She said, "So you are family too. Anyone who helps keep my son safe is family. To me, the people who protected my son are family." Jonathan sat with his mother in the conservatory and they had tea. He told her the story about the orphanage. He also told her about the memories that he could not really remember. He told her about Richard and how Richard had lied to him. Catherine listened to Jonathan. She felt very angry and very sad at the same time. She held Jonathan's hand the time he was talking to her. The orphanage and what had happened there was very hard for Jonathan to talk about. Jonathan's mother Catherine was very upset when she heard about Richard's deception. "We always thought that Richard was involved," she said in a voice. "After you got taken away, the police looked into everyone who could get into our house. Richard was in business with your father, so he knew about our security and what time we did things every day. He knew everything about us. The police never found enough proof to accuse Richard of doing anything wrong." Jonathan pulled out his phone. Showed her the documents that Dennis had put together. These documents were bad news. They showed money being moved from one bank account to another, all going to a woman named Helena Frost. The documents also showed that people were making records about kids being adopted. Jonathan saw emails where people were talking about getting kids for rich people who wanted them. Jonathan said, "There is now," and then he told her what he thought. Richard did not just take Jonathan. He was part of a group that took kids and sold them to people who had a lot of money and wanted a kind of child. This group was like a business that stole kids and sold them to people who were willing to pay for the kid they wanted. Catherine's face became really tough. "Then we have to make sure that he never hurts another family again. We have to make sure that he never does that to another family again, so that family is safe from him, just like we want to keep our family safe from people like him." The FBI went into Richard Blackwood's office. This was big news all over the country. They took away computers and files and financial records that went back 20 years. The proof they found was really strong. Richard Blackwood had been involved in at least 15 cases where children were taken from their families and given to rich people who wanted kids without having to go through the normal process. Helena Frost was found living under a name in Costa Rica. This led to her being sent to the United States and she had to testify in court. Helena Frost. This sealed Richard's fate. Helena Frost said who was involved. She told everything about what they were doing. She said that Jonathan Sterling was the most important person she had gotten. The fact that the Sterling family had a lot of money and was well known made Jonathan Sterling worth taking a risk for. Helena Frost had taken a risk to get Jonathan Sterling. Emma stood beside Jonathan during Richard's trial. Her hand was held in his. Richard was taken away with handcuffs on. He was given 30 years in prison for kidnapping, human trafficking, and fraud. Jonathan felt empty when this happened. Richard had taken care of him. Taught him about business. He had helped Jonathan become the person he's today. Everything Richard did was based on something very wrong. He had hurt a child to get what he wanted. Emma asked if I was okay and she did it quietly. Jonathan said that he really does not know what he is. One part of him is Jonathan Sterling, the person who is supposed to take over this family thing that he is still trying to figure out. Another part of Jonathan is still Theodore Blackwood, the person he was for a time 20 whole years. Jonathan Sterling is having a time bringing these two people together in his mind. Jonathan Sterling and Theodore Blackwood, they are, like two different people, and Jonathan does not know how to make them one. Catherine said this as she walked up to them on the courthouse steps. You do not have to pick one, she told them. You are Theodore. You are Jonathan. The things that happened to you when you were Theodore made you the man you are today. Jonathan is the person you were supposed to be all along. Both Theodore and Jonathan are parts of you, and both are important. Over the few months Jonathan worked hard to get his life back on track while still being the person he had become. He kept running his technology company. He changed what it did. Now his company helped kids and families who had been separated. Jonathan started with a project. He made a computer system that used pictures to help find missing kids. This system was called an AI-driven database. It used facial recognition and age progression technology to match missing children with families who were looking for them. Jonathan's technology company was working on this project to help families find their missing kids. Emma went to nursing school time. The Sterling Family Foundation paid for her tuition. She and Jonathan were still really close. They had been through a lot together. That had brought them very close. The Sterling Family Foundation helped Emma a lot. Emma and Jonathan started out as friends. Over time they became something more. This was not what they had planned. It was what they both needed. Emma and Jonathan needed each other because of what they had been through. The nursing school was a change for Emma, but Jonathan was always there, for her. Jonathan said to her one evening as they walked through the Sterling Gardens, "I love you." He did not say this because she saved him. Because she saw him. She saw the Jonathan, the one that was hidden under all the things he made up and the things he could not remember. Jonathan liked that she never gave up on the boy Jonathan used to be when he was younger. Emma. Tears were shining in her eyes. She said, "I love you too." She loved this person a lot. They went back away. They were kids together. They would tell each other secrets when it was dark. Emma felt like this person was her family then. Emma still feels that way about this person now. Emma thinks of them as her family. Jonathan and Catherine got married in the Sterling Gardens. They were surrounded by Jonathan's family, the people he had lost and then found again. Catherine was crying the time she was just so happy. It was like her happiness was too much to handle. Dennis was the man at the wedding. He was joking about how Jonathan does things without thinking, but you could tell he was really touched by the whole thing. Some other people were there too, people who had been hurt by the adoption ring. The foundation had helped them to put their lives back together. Now they were at Jonathan and Catherine's wedding. Jonathan's work did not stop with his reunion. Jonathan's work went on to help people. He spoke out for changes to be made to the adoption system. Jonathan worked with lawmakers to fix the problems that allowed places, like Riverside, to stay in business. Jonathan also paid for people to look into groups that might be taking children from their families. This helped a lot of families find their children who were taken or find out what happened to them. Jonathan's efforts helped dozens of families reconnect with their stolen children or find out what really happened to them. Emma was in charge of the family services part of the foundation. She used the things she learned when she was training to be a nurse to help families who were getting back together after being apart. Emma had gone through some things herself, so she really understood what it is like when people are trying to figure out who they are and where they fit in after something big happens to them. This helped her a lot when she was working with the families at the foundation with the family services division that Emma ran. One afternoon, 3 years after that night in the hotel, Jonathan stood in his office and looked out over the city. He had a view from his office. The same view that used to make Jonathan feel like a shot now made Jonathan feel like he was doing something that mattered. Jonathan's phone started ringing. The number on the phone was Catherine's number. Jonathan was going to talk to Catherine. His mother said to him, "There is someone I want you to meet." This person is named Rebecca Torres. Rebecca Torres has a daughter who was taken away from a shopping mall a time ago, about 6 years ago. Rebecca Torres saw the story about you on the news. She thinks that our database might be able to help Rebecca Torres. Jonathan will be there. He grabbed his coat. Then he stopped to look at the framed drawing on his wall. The drawing he made when he was a child is a picture of a family holding hands. Jonathan had finally found the family he was looking for. But what is more important to Jonathan is that he built a new family. His new family includes Emma and Catherine and every single person who has been helped by the mission to reunite the lost and stolen people, the mission that Jonathan and his new family are a part of, the mission to reunite the lost and stolen. As he drove to the Sterling estate, Emma sent him a message. "We have another match. The boy from the Patterson family, in Oregon, is a match. His parents have been looking for him for 12 years. The Patterson boy has been missing for a long time." Emma was telling him that the Patterson boy's parents have been searching for their son for 12 years. Jonathan. He felt warm inside his chest. This was a deal for him. Every time a family got back together, it was like they had won a battle against the bad things that had tried to hurt them. When families were together again, it showed that love is strong, hope is still there. Kids who were taken away can still find their way back home to their families. Jonathan thought about this. It made him happy to see families like his own, the love and hope they had, and the kids who were home safe, with their families. That night Jonathan was lying in bed next to Emma in their bedroom. He felt really happy and complete. This was not because he had gotten his name back or the things that belonged to him. It was because he had figured out what home really means. Home is not a house or a name. Home is the people who remember you when everyone else forgets about you. Home is the people who hold your hand when things get tough. Home is when you choose to love the people who matter to you much that you will do anything for them. Jonathan had learned that home is about the people you love, like Emma. Emma whispered to him, her head resting on his chest, "What are you thinking about?" Jonathan said that he is grateful. He is thankful for his friends, for his mother, and for this chance to live his life. He is also grateful for that little girl who took care of his drawings for 18 years. She kept them safe all that time, even when it would have been a lot easier for her to just forget about the drawings and move on. Jonathan feels lucky to have people like that girl in his life, people who care about him and his art, like his drawings. Emma lifted her head. She kissed Teddy softly. She said, "I could never forget Teddy. Teddy was always too bright to disappear from my life." The Sterling Gardens looked really beautiful in the moonlight outside their window. They were so peaceful. They seemed to last forever. Else, in the city, a family was getting back together. This was happening because two kids who did not have parents had not given up on finding out the truth. The morning there would be a lot of work to do. The Sterling Gardens would still be there, looking peaceful and eternal. There would be people who needed help and more kids who needed to be taken home to their families. The work of healing people and bringing kids home would continue, with the Sterling Gardens still looking beautiful in the background. But tonight, Jonathan Sterling slept peacefully for the first time in 20 years, surrounded by love that had survived every attempt to destroy it. The boy who'd been lost had finally found his way back. And in doing so, he'd lit the path for countless others to do the same.